I call the meeting to order. Distinguished delegates, I declare open the second plenary meeting. Today, we will continue consideration of Agenda Item 9, General Debate. States are invited, in accordance with Rule 50 of the Rules of Procedure of the Assembly, to deliver statements of no longer than 5 minutes. Pursuant to the Bureau decision taken on the 19th of November, the general debate is only scheduled to take place this afternoon. Furthermore, the Bureau just decided over the lunch break to recommend to the Assembly that only statements by the ministerial level speakers and speakers speaking on behalf of a group will be played or presented in person this afternoon. Time slots were allocated on first-come, first-served basis, with state parties being given priority. Due to the limited time available, statements which may not be played or delivered via pre-recorded video or in person today, including those of other state parties, observer and invited states, intergovernmental organizations and non-governmental organizations, may be submitted via a pre-recorded video or a written statement and will be posted on the Assembly website. Bearing in mind our common undertakings to diminish much as possible the risks posed by physical presence at the World Forum, may I take it that the Assembly agrees with the Bureau recommendation? We will proceed in that way. The list of speakers can be found on the website of the Assembly and at the conference officer's desk. As mentioned during the opening plenary, it was not possible for the President of the Democratic Republic of the Congo, His Excellency Felix Tshisekedi, to be able to send the pre-recorded video. Nonetheless, we have a representative, Mr. Taylor Lubanga, who traveled from Kinshasa to represent the President. So I'll give the floor to Mr. Lubanga first. You have the floor.
Monsieur le Président Ognokno, Président de l'Assemblée des États partis, distingués délégués représentants des États, Mesdames et Messieurs les juges, Madame le procureur, Monsieur le greffier, distingués invités en vos rangs et qualités respectifs. C'est avec un réel plaisir que je m'adresse à cette Assemblée des États partis à l'aimable invitation de Monsieur le Président, et je voudrais ici l'en remercier vivement de cet honneur. La 19e session de l'Assemblée des États partis qui se tient dans un contexte rendu difficile par la pandémie de la COVID-19 est non seulement une crise difficile depuis la crise des Nations Unies il y a 75 ans, mais également une crise humanitaire et économique. Nous avons perdu des personnes, qui nous sont chers et subissons encore des conséquences de cette pandémie à dimension planétaire. Nous sommes cependant tous présents à cette Assemblée, comme à d'autres événements multilatéraux récents, qui restent autant d'occasions de nous reconnaître comme communauté internationale et d'échanger sur la marche de notre monde afin de les rendre encore plus meilleurs. Nous devons continuer de faire ce travail nécessaire avec résilience. Il y a plus de 20 années maintenant, c'est cette même communauté internationale, dans un élan sans précédent, a adopté les statuts de Rome de la Cour pénale internationale pour combattre les crimes les plus atroces qui choquent la conscience humaine et portent atteinte à l'humanité tout entière. Cette Cour, notre Cour, véhicule les idéaux de paix, de justice et de solidarité. Ce sont eux qui nous réunissent et qui sont aujourd'hui encore ce que nous réaffirmons malgré les défis rencontrés. La RDC adhère pleinement aux principes et aux valeurs du statut de Rome, en ce que ces valeurs présentent un idéal précis, la protection de l'humanité. En plus d'avoir ratifié le statut fondateur de la Cour, le 2 avril 2002, la RDC a été l'un des premiers pays à déférer à la Cour pénale internationale la situation qui règne dans notre pays. C'est ici l'occasion de rappeler que la CPI a rendu son tout premier verdict en 2012. Celui-ci concernait l'affaire Thomas Lubanga, un sujet congolais. Bien d'autres ont depuis été rendus. Il en est ainsi notamment dans les affaires Mathieu Ngonjolo et Germain Katanga. Je voudrais réaffirmer à cette Assemblée que la RDC renouvelle son fort attachement au statut de Rome et ne ménagera aucun effort pour soutenir le travail de la Cour pénale internationale et accompagner les initiatives de renforcement de son effectivité et les actions que nous devons collectivement engager pour tendre vers l'universalisation de cette institution. Mesdames et messieurs, les crimes contre l'humanité, les crimes de guerre, les crimes de génocide ne doivent pas rester impunis. L'expérience de la RDC renseigne à suffisance sur les conséquences désastreuses de ces crimes et nos populations civiles en sont le premier témoin. C'est pourquoi j'ai tenu à placer les impératifs de la consolidation de l'état de droit et de lutte contre l'impunité des crimes internationaux au cœur de notre système de gouvernance. Notre expérience, notre histoire avec la Cour nous permet de voir également l'ampleur du travail, la coopération et la complémentarité, qui sont des piliers du statut de Rome. Elle découle de l'idée fondamentale pour la RDC, selon laquelle l'impunité, surtout pour les crimes les plus graves, est irréconciliable avec la paix nationale et internationale. Dans cet exercice de ses fonctions, la Cour compte énormément sur la coopération des États, des organisations internationales, de la société civile et de toutes les parties concernées au statut de Rome en vertu des accords particuliers conclus. Cette coopération de mise en œuvre permet justement de se matérialiser au travers le transfèrement des accusés, la protection des témoins et pour l'exécution de ces sentences. Il faut se féliciter des importantes réalisations de la Cour en matière d'enquête et de poursuites. Je pense ici aux enquêtes ouvertes sur les crimes qui auraient été commis en République populaire de Bangladesh et en République d'Union de Myanmar. Je voudrais à ce titre rendre hommage mérité à Madame le procureur Fatou Bensouda pour son leadership et salue son fructueux mandat. Les politiques de son bureau a adopté en matière de crimes sexuels et à caractère sexiste qui sont pour la plupart des pays victimes une politique fortement salutaire. Il faut également se féliciter du travail du Fonds au profit des victimes dans la mise en œuvre des programmes de réparation en faveur des victimes et particulièrement les victimes de la République démocratique du Congo. Il est crucial que les États et les partenaires continuent à se mobiliser pour renforcer la capacité financière et d'action du Fonds au profit des victimes. Des efforts importants ont été réalisés par la Cour depuis le commencement de ces activités. Mais il faut ne pas s'arrêter en si bon chemin. Il y a encore des défis importants auxquels la Cour doit faire face. Le défi de l'efficacité de la justice pénale internationale face aux enjeux de notre monde appelle avant tout un renouvellement du soutien sans faille à la Cour des États, des organisations internationales, de la société civile et une fois encore de toutes les parties concernées. Ce soutien est fondamental afin de permettre à notre Cour de continuer à accomplir son mandat judiciaire en toute indépendance et en toute impartialité. Mesdames et messieurs, aucune institution humaine n'est parfaite. La justice pénale internationale ne fait pas exception. Cette justice est une œuvre humaine et doit continuer à se parfaire et à se perfectionner pour répondre efficacement aux critiques qui lui sont adressées et aux défis changeants de son cadre d'action. En l'absence des forces de police et des territoires propres, les États doivent continuer à apporter les soutiens nécessaires à la mise en œuvre de son mandat et à l'exécution de ses décisions. Je suis préoccupé pour l'efficacité du rôle de la Cour lorsque j'observe la non-exécution de certains mandats d'arrêt qui risqueraient de perturber les missions de la Cour. C'est une question déjà soulevée et sur laquelle l'Assemblée doit devoir se pencher pour y apporter des remèdes. La coopération est cruciale pour assurer une justice effective et efficace. En parallèle, la Cour doit continuer à dialoguer avec l'Afrique et toutes les parties du monde. Le travail d'explication de son mandat et de ses activités doivent s'intensifier. Une fois de plus, avec le soutien des États et des parties concernées. Toutes les forces doivent être combinées dans ce travail pédagogique et crucial. L'actualité récente démontre à l'envi l'importance de porter une information crédible et complète sur la Cour et son rôle, face aux messages de manipulation et à confusion entretenus par ses opposants. La Cour doit poursuivre ses efforts en vue d'accorder une place plus centrale aux victimes dans les cas de procédures qui doivent remplir toutes les garanties d'un procès juste et équitable. Les victimes qui sont au cœur du statut de Rome doivent aussi, autant que possible, pouvoir voir la justice être rendue à la proximité de leurs faits, dans leur pays lorsque les conditions sont réunies. Elles doivent pouvoir assister aux audiences pour que leur histoire soit entendue et que les poursuites soient totalement engagées de manière à permettre que les réparations les plus adéquates leur soient offertes. Les initiatives de la Cour en direction des victimes dans le pays des situations doivent être consolidées et conduites de façon complémentaire avec les efforts nationaux en matière de poursuite des crimes internationaux. Je me félicite des résultats obtenus par la justice congolaise qui va continuer ses efforts pour rendre une justice aux victimes qui sont les plus exposées. La décision récemment rendue dans l'affaire Ntabo Mbereki alias Sheka est une illustration de la détermination de la République démocratique du Congo à poursuivre les combats contre l'impunité. Je voudrais particulièrement remercier tous les partenaires qui ont apporté une assistance technique à la justice congolaise dans ce procès et dans tant d'autres procédures. Nous en sommes très reconnaissants. Je voudrais particulièrement renouveler mon appel aux partenaires techniques à renforcer leur appui au soutien de notre volonté et de notre élan d'accélération des traitements des cas prioritaires. Mesdames et messieurs, je me réjouis de l'initiative prise par l'Assemblée des États parties d'entreprendre une réflexion sur la révision du fonctionnement de la Cour. Il faut se féliciter du rapport présenté par les experts indépendants et de l'esprit de l'ouverture des responsables de la Cour. Il s'agit ici de Monsieur le Président, de Madame le procureur, Monsieur le greffier, envie d'engager avec les États un dialogue ouvert et constructif pour renforcer et consolider notre institution commune. La Cour est une institution judiciaire jeune et fragile. Cependant, elle s'est démarquée par des décisions et enquêtes qui ont permis, au regard du bilan pénal mondial, de noter une avancée significative dans notre lutte collective de lutte contre l'impunité. Face aux crimes qui continuent de dévaster nos sociétés dans presque toutes les parties du monde, avec les conséquences atroces sur les populations civiles, la Cour pénale, en tant qu'institution complémentaire aux juridictions nationales, est plus que jamais pertinente. Face aux enjeux, nous avons la responsabilité de préserver cette Cour et son intégrité. Son ancrage dans la société internationale est un impératif. Nous devons cela aux générations futures. Mesdames et messieurs, je vous remercie.
Thank you, Mr. Lubanga, for your speech on behalf of the President, His Excellency Tshisekedi. We'll now hear a pre-recorded statement by the second speaker, His Excellency Mr. Jean-Yves Le Drian, Minister of Europe and Foreign Affairs of France.
Monsieur le Président de l'Assemblée des États parties, Monsieur le Président de la Cour, Madame la Procureure, Monsieur le Greffier, Mesdames et Messieurs, dans le contexte de brutalisation de la vie internationale que nous connaissons, la CPI a particulièrement besoin de notre soutien, autant que nous avons besoin d'elle, pour permettre à la communauté internationale de lutter contre l'impunité pour les crimes les plus graves et incarner de manière concrète le principe d'un ordre international fondé sur la règle de droit, le multilatéralisme et l'indépendance de la justice. C'est pourquoi la France est pleinement engagée à ses côtés. En 2019, plus de 90 demandes émises par le bureau du procureur et le greffe avaient été traitées par les autorités françaises. Cette année encore, nous avons, en tant que co-facilitateur avec le Sénégal, co-facilitateur du groupe de travail sur la coopération, œuvré au renforcement des échanges en matière d'enquête financière, proposé des outils pour la coopération interétatique et identifié de nouvelles pistes d'action pour l'an prochain. En 2021, nous apporterons par ailleurs un financement aux activités de renforcement de capacités menées par la Cour en matière de coopération. Et à titre national, nous entamerons des négociations avec la Cour en matière d'exécution des peines. Nous entendons aussi nous associer aux efforts de l'ensemble des États partis au traité de Rome pour la renforcer, en nous appuyant sur le processus de revue du fonctionnement de la Cour lancé l'année dernière avec le concours du groupe d'experts indépendants dont les travaux doivent désormais nous guider. Nous guider pour permettre à la Cour de gagner encore en efficacité, pour lui permettre de poursuivre l'universalisation du statut de Rome et de mieux faire face par elle-même aux menaces qui pèsent sur elle. C'est d'autant plus indispensable que les mesures de sanctions prises par l'administration Trump cette année à l'encontre des agents de la Cour, en premier lieu de sa procureure, et plus largement de tous ceux qui coopèrent avec la Cour, sont une menace inacceptable à son action. C'est pourquoi nous appelons une nouvelle fois, avec la plus grande fermeté, au retrait de ces mesures. La Cour a aussi besoin de tout notre soutien politique pour résister aux pressions extérieures. Ce doit être pour nous tous une priorité aujourd'hui. Car la Cour doit pouvoir agir en toute indépendance et impartialité dans le cadre défini par le statut de Rome, et le bureau du procureur doit pouvoir exercer ses prérogatives sans entrave ni obstruction, en particulier dans le contexte géopolitique complexe dans lequel il intervient. Nous devons aussi veiller à ce que le prochain ou la prochaine procureur de la Cour reste à même de résister à toute forme d'interférence ou de politisation de sa mission. Nous compterons sur elle ou sur lui pour mener les réformes nécessaires afin de continuer à faire progresser la qualité et la célérité de ces enquêtes, tout en adoptant une approche budgétaire raisonnable et respectueuse des deniers apportés par les États parties. Nous attendrons également du nouveau procureur, comme des juges et de l'ensemble des encadrants de la Cour qui s'efforcent au quotidien de mieux tenir compte de la diversité des systèmes juridiques afin de mieux combiner leurs différents atouts, tout en respectant le multilinguisme qui permet d'accorder toute leur place aux victimes dans le procès. La Cour pénale internationale, mesdames et messieurs, est une institution encore relativement jeune. C'est pourquoi notre responsabilité de la défendre aujourd'hui et de travailler à la renforcer dans la durée. C'est un chantier essentiel auquel la France veut prendre toute sa part. Je vous remercie.
I thank Minister Le Drian for his statement. We will now hear a pre-recorded statement by His Excellency Mr. Alexander Schallenberg of Austria.
Madam President, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, 25 years after the genocide of Srebrenica, we continue to receive disturbing reports about appalling atrocities and crimes from around the world and almost on a daily basis. In November, more than 600 civilians were massacred in Mai Kadra in the Tigray region in Ethiopia. Only a few weeks earlier, we had seen footage from the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict showing the use of explosive weapons in populated areas and attacks against people protected under the Geneva Convention. While the world is fighting the COVID-19 virus, crimes against humanity and war crimes are continuing and sometimes even intensifying. Since the outbreak of the pandemic, several new conflict zones have emerged, such as in Ethiopia and Nagorno-Karabakh, in addition to protracted conflicts like Syria or Yemen. These conflicts are currently outside the judicial reach of the ICC, and this is simply unacceptable for us. More than ever, we need to stand up for the universality of the Rome Statute. Perpetrators must never be led to believe that they are safe from prosecution. They must not believe that they can hide in the shadow of our fight against the pandemic. Therefore, this assembly has to send a very strong message. The COVID-19 pandemic must not become a pandemic of impunity. I commend the quick reaction by the court to adapt its work to the COVID-19 restrictions. And despite multiple challenges, the ICC has made important progress this year. Take the situation in Darfur. In June, 13 years after the arrest warrant was issued, Ali Kushaib was finally arrested and transferred to the ICC. Former President Omar al-Bashir, the first head of state ever charged by the ICC, is now imprisoned in Khartoum. And in October, we witnessed the first visit of an ICC prosecutor to the Sudanese capital. These examples send a very clear message to perpetrators anywhere in the world. It might sometimes take a lot of time, but eventually justice will prevail. These examples also send a glimmer of hope to victims of other conflicts, like that raging in Syria. We have constantly called for a Security Council referral of the situation to the ICC. The ICC should try top commanders, including senior ISIS leaders, responsible for the worst atrocities. And for the thousands of mid-level and lower-ranking perpetrators, including foreign terrorist fighters, a special tribunal should be established in the region. Ladies and gentlemen, of course, nobody is perfect, and this applies to the court too. It must constantly strive to improve its efficiency and to implement reforms. However, we clearly oppose any sanctions and any other restrictive measure against the court, its members, and its staff. The court must always be able to work freely and independently without outside pressure or interferences. Let us not forget the reason for which the court was created in the first place: to fight for international justice and to hold those who commit crimes against humanity accountable, to strengthen the rule of law instead of the law of the jungle. And I can assure you that Austria will continue to do its utmost to assist the court in realizing this essential mission. Thank you.
Thank you. I thank His Excellency Mr. Alexander Schollenberg, Federal Minister of European and International Affairs of Austria. Next, we are going to hear a pre-recorded statement by His Excellency Mr. Riyad Malki, Minister of Foreign Affairs and Expatriates of State of Palestine.
Mr. President, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, it is an honor to address the Assembly of State Parties of the ICC on behalf of the State of Palestine at this critical juncture. It is also a heavy responsibility to speak on behalf of a people that have endured and continue to endure dispossession, displacement, and denial of rights. For 70 years now, they have awaited justice and explored every avenue to achieve accountability and redress. They hope that the court will live up to its calling without double standards or exceptions. This year has proven to be challenging on various fronts, bearing complications both on global health and the health of the court. The resilience and determination shown in the response to and handling of force majeure must also be adopted for the protection and strengthening of the court, and that lies exclusively in your hands. The State of Palestine commends the many statements that were issued in support of the court in response to the threats targeting the institution, its staff, and its representatives. Most worrying, the past year saw an unprecedented political and financial assault on the prosecutor, her office, and judges in a cynical campaign of political extortion that was unthinkable up until the outgoing American administration broke all international norms. It is appalling to see such actions that aim at deterring justice instead of deterring crimes. It is appalling to see the ICC prosecutor and judges attacked and war criminals shielded. We have a responsibility to take action that protects the court and ensure that such tactics of political and financial extortion are rendered invalid and ineffective. This must never happen again. This 19th session may very well prove to be pivotal for the court. Palestine believes there are 3 items on our agenda that have the potential to drastically advance and develop the efficiency, credibility, and effectiveness of this court. First, the election of 6 judges. The State of Palestine is grateful for the work of the Advisory Committee on Nominations of Judges. The judiciary is the pillar on which this court, its jurisprudence, and its legacy are founded. In this connection, the State of Palestine affirms our responsibility as state parties to elect judges who are not only knowledgeable and experienced, but who also conduct themselves with the required integrity and impartiality. We must cast our ballots based on merit, not political allegiances. Second, the Assembly is also charged with electing the prosecutor, the anchor of the institution, our legal compass in the battle against impunity, charged with ensuring that this court is credible, efficient, effective, and engaged in the pursuit of justice and ending impunity. The State of Palestine believes that every effort should be made to reach a consensus candidate. This would present a much-needed unified front in the face of threats that confront the institution and lend strength to the credibility of the institution. It is for this reason that the State of Palestine made every effort to ensure that the process of electing the prosecutor was fair, transparent, merit-based, and inclusive, including by supporting the innovative process of mandating a committee on the election of the prosecutor and a panel of experts to reach an objective and rigorous assessment of the most viable candidates. The third issue is the review of the court. The assessment and implementation of the relevant recommendations by the Assembly and the court should be conducted with the urgency they warrant. In particular, we note that the experts' report stressed the lack of consistency in the way different chambers deal with the same issues, the failure to apply agreed procedures, and delays in the delivery of decisions and judgments. These findings raise particular concern for the State of Palestine. Almost 1 year ago, the Office of the Prosecutor submitted to the pre-trial chamber a request for a ruling on jurisdiction under Article 19/3 of the Rome Statute in the situation in Palestine, and yet no ruling has yet been handed down. The prosecution had conducted a preliminary examination into the situation in Palestine since January 16, 2015, and indicated that it stands prepared to open an investigation once the court's jurisdictional scope is confirmed. While the matter is under consideration by the pre-trial chamber, the prosecution must still ensure that the process that it initiated is not left open indefinitely, as delayed justice is denied justice. As the situation in Palestine hangs in procedural limbo, Palestinian civilians have continued to be killed, maimed, forcibly transferred, and persecuted in the context of widespread and systematic attack on their very existence.
We must not lose sight of the dangerous message such delayed justice conveys to victims in Palestine and around the world,
which is effectively that their suffering lacks urgency, thus undermining the founding idea of the court. It also undermines the ability of the court to prevent the recurrence of crimes. Only by making sure that time is on the side of the victims, not of the perpetrators of atrocity crimes, can the court truly fulfill its sacred mandate. Thank you for your kind attention.
I thank Minister Markey for his statement. Now, we will hear the statement of Her Excellency Ms. Ann Linde, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Sweden.
Mr. President, I'm honored to address the Assembly of State Parties on behalf of Sweden. Allow me first to express my government's sincere appreciation to the court, its officials and supporters around the world for their tireless efforts to end impunity for the most serious crimes of international concern. Sweden remains committed to a rule-based international order, and the ICC is an important part of that order. Universal ratification of the Rome Statute lies at the heart of the promise of the ICC and, more broadly, international justice. Perceptions of selective justice must be countered with more state parties, more support for the court, and more justice, not less. Measures taken against the court, its officials and staff undermine our common endeavor to fight impunity and to ensure accountability for mass atrocities. Sweden has consistently expressed its steadfast support for the integrity and the independence of the court. Mr. President, while support from the outside is imperative to the court's legitimacy and effectiveness, increased efficiency must also come from within the court. The ongoing review process of the court and its organs is of paramount importance to Sweden. Sweden, together with the Nordic countries, has been active in that process. We commend the hard and thorough work of the group of independent experts, and we welcome the report as an important opportunity for the court, its organs, and the state parties to further strengthen the Rome Statute. The focus should now shift to the implementation of the recommendations with a view to ensuring a strong, effective, and independent court. Collective efforts by the court, state parties, and civil society to strengthen the Rome Statute system, and the court should be inclusive and transparent. The integrity and independence of the court and the core principles of the Rome Statute must be respected. Mr. President, this year's Assembly of State Parties carries particular importance with the forthcoming election of a new prosecutor and new judges. It is vital that the most qualified candidates with high moral character are elected. I would like to take this opportunity to thank Prosecutor Bensouda for her time at the ICC and express appreciation for her tireless work to seek justice for atrocity crimes. We commend her relentless work in combating sexual and gender-based crimes. Mr. President, In order to make justice meaningful for victims of atrocity crimes, the Rome Statute provides for reparative justice for victims. This is achieved not only by giving victims a voice during proceedings through their representatives, but also through the repatriation and assistance provided by the Trust Fund for Victims. The fund relies on voluntary contribution to fulfill its mandate. Sweden has been the largest contributor to the Trust Fund, with total contributions of approximately 3 million euros during the period 2019 to 2021. I encourage other state parties to consider contribution to the fund. Mr. President, let me conclude by reaffirming Sweden's unwavering support for the ICC. I'm convinced that the court will emerge from the challenges it is facing stronger, more efficient, and more resilient. Thank you.
I thank Minister Linda for her statement. Next, we will hear a pre-recorded statement of His Excellency Mr. David Zakaliani, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Georgia.
Mr. President, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, it's a great honor to address the Assembly of the State Parties today on behalf of Georgia, a founding member of the Rome Statute system. This year, for the first time in ASP's history, we have to deliver pre-recorded videos instead of in-person statement due to worldwide pandemic. This format is far from ideal, but at this crucial juncture, it is more important than ever that we share our views on the only permanent international criminal court. Mr. President, it is not overstating to say that the existence of the ICC is the institution of many firsts of international criminal justice project is a great achievement in itself. While certain criticisms are leveled at the ICC, its achievements in prosecuting the core international crimes and in delivering reparative justice to victims are highly appreciated. In this regard, as a representative of a situation country, I firmly believe that the justice will be delivered in a timely manner for the victims of Russia's full-scale aggression against Georgia in 2008. Mr. President, for Georgia, rules-based international order is of fundamental importance, which cannot be achieved without dedicated actors. To this effect, we were in the forefront of establishing permanent international criminal court as a member of like-minded group of states sharing the objective of establishing as a strong court. Having this in mind, Georgia supports the court's continued efforts to enhance its performance, efficiency, and legitimacy. In this regard, we note with appreciation 384 concrete, achievable, and actionable recommendations regarding governance, judiciary, and prosecutorial processes identified by the independent expert review. We hope that this unprecedented review process transforms the ICC into a more resilient international court with improved performance. Mr. President, at this ASP, we'll elect a number of key positions in the Rome Statute system in an almost complete turnover of leadership, including 6 new judges and the prosecutor. Georgia attaches particular importance to the judicial elections. Therefore, we have nominated a Georgian candidate for the ICC judge. I draw your attention that in line with the regulations, this year, the state parties will be required to select at least 1 out of 2 nominated candidates from Eastern Europe. Therefore, I seize this opportunity to kindly ask all the delegations to support the Georgian candidate, Professor Gocha Lotkipanidze, to be elected as a new judge of the ICC to ensure equitable geographical representation with the membership of the bench. While his solid professional and personal qualities are publicly available on the ASP's webpage, I will only recall the Professor Lord Kipanidze. First, he was nominated through an exceptional national selection procedure. He was evaluated by the former ICC judge Ekaterina Trendafilova and the former ICC registrar Herman von Hebel. Second, he was unanimously endorsed by the Parliament of Georgia, which attests to the candidate's high level of legitimacy. And third, the ANC concluded that he is qualified candidate for ICC and he demonstrated excellent performance at the public roundtable. Mr. President, not only in Georgia is one of the architects of the Rome Statute system, it has established itself as a role model in cooperating with the court. We believe that Georgia deserves to be represented in the judicial bench of the ICC for the first time for what it did and what it can do with the ICC and in the ICC. Thank you.
I thank Minister Zarkaliani for his statement. Now we will hear the pre-recorded statement of His Excellency Mr. Rodolfo Solano Quiros, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Costa Rica.
Señor Presidente de la Asamblea, Excelencias, distinguidos delegados y delegadas. En nombre de Costa Rica, es un honor dirigirme a esta Asamblea de Estados parte del Estatuto de Roma y agradecer la oportunidad para expresar nuestro compromiso con la lucha contra la impunidad y nuestra solidaridad con las víctimas de los peores crímenes en momentos en que el mundo enfrenta desafíos extraordinarios. Como democracia desarmada y comprometida con la institucionalidad internacional, Costa Rica reconoce que el último año ha sido particularmente difícil para la Corte Penal Internacional. Ha sido un año de retos para el sistema internacional que enfrenta el embate de la pandemia y la erosión provocada por los exacerbados nacionalismos que comprometen la cooperación internacional tan necesaria para buscar soluciones comunes a los problemas globales de la humanidad. Hemos leído con atención el informe con los resultados de la evaluación del grupo de expertos independientes sobre la Corte Penal Internacional, el cual agradecemos. Se trata de un trabajo de singular valor que sin duda contribuirá a fortalecer el sistema de justicia penal internacional. La Corte tiene también desafíos internos a cuya solución debe abocarse. La atención a muchas de las recomendaciones del grupo de expertos permitirá alcanzar necesarios avances en su eficiencia y eficacia. Costa Rica estima que es impostergable la pronta acción de los Estados y de todos los órganos de la propia Corte para implementar de manera transparente e inclusiva, con la participación de la sociedad civil, todas aquellas recomendaciones del informe que no representen un costo económico adicional, en especial las relacionadas con aspectos de gobernanza y eficiencia. Nuestro compromiso es trabajar por un sistema multilateral más fuerte, más equitativo y más eficaz. Señor Presidente, esta sesión es de particular relevancia porque permitirá renovar la integración de la Judicatura y la titularidad de la Fiscalía, que tendrán bajo su responsabilidad impulsar los cambios requeridos en consonancia con los objetivos del Estatuto de Roma. Al respecto, resalto la importancia de elegir personas altamente calificadas, juristas con sólida experiencia, liderazgo y visión, que custodien los intereses de la Corte y aún por encima de ella, la dignidad de las víctimas de los crímenes que allí se juzgan. Por ello, Costa Rica se enorgullece de haber presentado un candidato para juez, el señor Sergio Ugalde, que muchos de ustedes reconocen tanto por ser un jurista altamente calificado como por su integridad, independencia y compromiso resoluto con los valores y con la misión del Estatuto de Roma. Costa Rica agradece a los Estados parte su apoyo a esta candidatura. Señor presidente, el sistema de justicia penal internacional ha enfrentado desafortunados actos de hostilidad e intimidación durante el presente año. Costa Rica, junto con Suiza, realizó intensas gestiones para obtener el apoyo de numerosos países de todas las regiones y unirse en defensa del Estatuto de Roma. Buscamos la certeza de que en nuestro territorio nacional las sanciones unilaterales que contra sus funcionarios lleguen a dictarse no tengan efecto alguno. Seguiremos prestando a la Corte nuestro apoyo incondicional ante cualquier acto intimidatorio en contra de su independencia judicial y su mandato. Asimismo, Costa Rica desea hacer énfasis en la relevancia que tiene para la Corte contar con una cooperación eficaz por parte de sus Estados miembros. La falta de cooperación no solo impide enjuiciar a los perpetradores, sino que también es un obstáculo para brindar a las víctimas la protección y la justicia que reclaman y merecen. En este sentido, Costa Rica estima vital un renovado diálogo entre los Estados parte y la Corte, conducente a una cooperación efectiva. El Estatuto de Roma confiere un papel central a las víctimas y su derecho a una reparación digna, por lo que los Estados tenemos una obligación especial con ellas, especialmente con las más vulnerables, como las mujeres, las niñas y los niños. Por ello, donde sea posible, debemos reforzar las actividades de asistencia a víctimas de violencia sexual y de rehabilitación a quienes han sufrido traumas físicos y psicológicos. Esto se refleja la importancia y el papel humanista de la Corte Penal Internacional. Señor presidente, le expreso la gratitud de mi país por su compromiso de trabajo para cumplir los objetivos del Estatuto de Roma. También destaco el trabajo tesonero de la Secretaría de la Asamblea, de los vicepresidentes, de los facilitadores y puntos focales, cuya contribución a la gestión de la Corte es fundamental. Esta Corte es la única organización de justicia penal internacional permanente, llamada a ser ejemplo como órgano judicial responsable, independiente y profesional. Costa Rica continuará promoviendo los valores del Estatuto de Roma de manera firme, consistente y respetuosa, y así lograr su universalidad. Muchas gracias.
I thank Minister Solano for his statement. We'll now hear a pre-recorded statement of Her Excellency Ms. Maria Aranzazu González-Laya, Minister of Foreign Affairs, European Union and Cooperation of Spain.
Señor presidente, señoras y señores, España, su gobierno y sus ciudadanos están plenamente comprometidos con el Estatuto de Roma. En el alma de nuestra política exterior están la lucha contra la impunidad, la prevención de las violaciones de los derechos humanos, el respeto al derecho internacional humanitario o la justicia y la reparación para las víctimas. 2020 ha sido un año de retos inéditos, también para la Corte Penal Internacional. Sin embargo, la institución ha sabido adaptarse y continuar con su mandato. Felicito al presidente, a la fiscal y a todo el personal de la Corte por su trabajo y dedicación en estas circunstancias tremendamente complicadas. Lamentablemente, 2020 ha sido también un año de nuevas amenazas y ataques inaceptables contra la Corte, empezando por las sanciones contra la fiscal y su equipo. Debido al amplio alcance de estas medidas, todos los que somos parte del sistema del Estatuto de Roma nos hemos visto señalados. Mirando ahora hacia el futuro, quisiera referirme a dos cuestiones esenciales para la Corte. La primera es la evaluación externa de su funcionamiento y la aplicación de las recomendaciones propuestas por el grupo de expertos independientes. Se trata del ejercicio de revisión más importante desde la adopción del Estatuto de Roma y se está avanzando de manera positiva. Una oportunidad que no debemos dejar escapar para fortalecer a la Corte y mejorar su funcionamiento sin renunciar a las premisas que impulsaron el nacimiento de la institución. En segundo lugar, quiero referirme a la elección de jueces y de fiscal, que debe fundamentarse en los principios de excelencia, de independencia y de máxima consideración moral. Por ello, consideramos que los Estados aquí reunidos debemos ser exigentes a la hora de depositar nuestra confianza. La renovación de estos cargos electos durante esta sesión, así como el del presidente de la Asamblea, nos hace directamente responsables del futuro de la Corte. No puede faltar una mención a las víctimas, la razón de ser del sistema. España sigue plenamente comprometida con la restauración de la justicia y con la recuperación de la vida digna de los individuos y comunidades supervivientes de los crímenes. Seguiremos apoyando al Fondo Fiduciario para las Víctimas y a su Consejo de Directores. Sirvan estas palabras de reconocimiento al señor Michelini y de respaldo a la nueva presidenta del Consejo, la señora Coité Doumbia. Por último, concluyo haciendo un llamamiento a los Estados amantes de la paz a sumarse al Estatuto de Roma y a todos los miembros de la comunidad internacional, así como al Consejo de Seguridad de Naciones Unidas, a cooperar en la lucha contra la impunidad y en la prevención de los crímenes de lesa humanidad. Si buscamos rehumanizar la globalización, debemos contar con una Corte Penal Internacional reforzada en su independencia y su eficacia. Señor presidente, gracias por el trabajo intenso que ha realizado en los últimos 3 años al frente de la Asamblea. Igualmente enviamos nuestra felicitación más cordial y sincera a la nueva presidenta. Muchas gracias.
I thank the Minister of Spain for her statement. We will now hear in-person statement of His Excellency Mr. Abubakar Malami, Attorney General and Minister of Justice of Nigeria. Your Excellency, you have the floor.
It is with great pleasure that I welcome the participants to this year's session. It is gratifying to note that despite the ravaging coronavirus pandemic, we are still able to hold this year's session with such a large turnout. This is a testimony of the great esteem and importance that state parties attach to the International Criminal Court. Since my delegation is taking the floor for the first time, let me, on behalf of His Excellency President Muhammadu Buhari, the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, my delegation, the government and people of Nigeria, congratulate the President and other members of the Bureau for the successful tenure at the helm of the Assembly, as they have displayed exemplary leadership qualities for taking charge of this year's session despite the ravaging pandemic. Nigeria is confident that the incoming President, Vice President, and members of the Bureau will build on the successes recorded by the outgoing President and his team. We look forward to greater progress for this body under the new leadership that will be elected and assure Nigeria's continued support in the discharge of the onerous responsibilities of successfully conducting the affairs of the Assembly of State Parties. I also wish to congratulate in advance the new members of the Committee on Budget and Finance and charge them to build on the achievements of their predecessors. My delegation's compliments will be incomplete if I fail to appreciate the work and efforts of the outgoing prosecutor, Mrs. Patu Bensouda, a courageous, diligent, intelligent, and hardworking African ambassador. I have had occasion to work closely with her with regard to the preliminary investigation on Nigeria arising from the ongoing war against Boko Haram terrorists. And all I can say is that Mrs. Patu Bensouda was thorough, firm, and unwavering all through the years of examining the accusations against Nigeria. If in the nearest future, Mrs. Patu Bensouda wishes to contest for any position, either at the ICC or elsewhere, Nigeria will readily stand firm and support her. I wish her all the best in her future endeavors. Mr. President, since this is the last time that my countryman and brother, President Iboy Osuji, will be with us, I wish to seize this opportunity to express Nigeria's pride and appreciation for his leadership of the court in the last 3 years as president and his defining contributions to the jurisprudence of the court throughout the 9-year tenure. As president, he has brought enduring reforms to the court and spearheaded efforts that have led to the better understanding of the court on the world stage. African leaders in particular have related better with the court through his efforts. We have also been particularly impressed with his relentless assertion of the court's independence, including through efforts he led to improve the conditions of service of judges in order to ensure that jurists of the highest caliber will always aspire for the appointment to the court's judiciary, thereby strengthening the quality of the bench as a whole. Nigeria is particularly proud of the fact that in all these efforts and contributions, President Osuji had been guided by his conscience and his views of the law and not by the winds of political popularity. For that, he deserves the respect of all of us. Nigeria has taken note of the efforts to reform the conditions of service of the ICC judges. Nigeria is equally concerned about the rationale that has now disconnected those conditions from their traditional alignment with the conditions of service of the judges of the International Court of Justice. It is true that the conditions of service of the ICC judges need not to be formally linked to those of ICJ judges, but it is important to stress that ICC judges are not inferior to their counterparts of the ICJ or at the other international courts in Europe. That equality of stature must also be reflected in parity of treatment in conditions of service. Nigeria also underscores the importance of maintaining the usual arrangement in the administration of international justice, according to which judges of international courts are compensated at a level above the Under-Secretaries General in the United Nations system. That is the system the ICJ, as it was at the International Criminal Tribunal for the former Yugoslavia, the International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda, and the Special Court for Sierra Leone. So far, that has been the system at the ICC. There is no rational ground to change that arrangement at the ICC by downgrading ICC judges to the USG level. Such downgrading will also result in difficulties in the orderly conduct of ICC proceedings and may result in discouragement. Nigeria has taken note of the report of the independent experts. We commend President Osuji and his colleagues for volunteering to have this review finally done. It is an enduring achievement for which they must be commended. It is important to underscore that the review exercise was meant to be a review of systems in order to have a holistic improvement. The review was never intended to be an inquiry into wrongdoing. There are different ways and different safeguards for conducting inquiries of the latter kind. The report should also not contain unverified rumors and gossips which come with high risk of inaccuracies and bad faith. As the Assembly carefully considers the useful aspect of the report, it is important to remain faithful to the original vision of the ICC and the relevant text of the Rome Statutes, which must be interpreted according to the usual rules of treaty interpretation, now codified in the Vienna Convention on the Law of Treaties, 1969. Finally, Nigeria discourages the idea that a court of law should be shaped and guided by bodies that are in turn guided or influenced by dominant politics. The ICC is meant to be a court of law and nothing else. It needs to remain that way in order to effectively discharge its mandate. Mr. President, in other words, there is a need to safeguard the integrity of Rome Statute and its cornerstone principles. In that regard, Nigeria is grateful to the independent expert review report, which came up with action-oriented recommendations to the Assembly. Nigeria wishes to commend the effort of the independent experts on the review process of the Rome Statute system within the stipulated time, despite outbreak of COVID-19 pandemic. Nigeria wishes to state, while implementing the recommendations of the report, we should be mindful of the fact that the ICC is not an ordinary court of law. Therefore, its peculiarity must not be eroded. The implementation of the review process should be holistic, strengthening the court and Rome Statute system in order to meet up with the challenges of the 21st century. I note with great consternation that the promise and hope offered by the Rome Statute to victims of atrocious crimes worldwide is increasingly threatened by a retreat in multinational engagement and rising tides of hostility, discrimination, and repression around the world. In addition, attacks against the ICC and its officials continue to weaken the Rome Statute system and its support across the globe. In this vein, Nigeria wishes to align with the European Union and other state parties to the Rome Statute of the ICC in condemning action geared towards undermining and weakening the court. Nigeria also wishes to condemn any action or threat of action that undermines or seeks to undermine the ability of the court to freely exercise its mandate and carry out its core functions. Nigeria thus wishes to reaffirm inter alia her unconditional commitment to the ICC as the cornerstone of the fight against impunity and a critical element of rules-based international order. She also commits to work together with state parties to oppose efforts to undermine the work of the court and its independence, and in particular, Nigeria strongly condemns threats made against the ICC, its officials, and those cooperating with the court wherever such actions may be coming from. Nigeria wishes to commend the effort of the Committee on the Election of the Prosecutor and the Advisory Committee on Nomination of Judges for their due diligence in carrying out their assigned task. Nigeria commits to supporting a process that is all-inclusive and transparent, as well as process devoid of any sentiment in order to select the best and most qualified candidates for the coveted position of prosecutor of the ICC. Similarly, the election of judges of the court should also be conducted in a transparent manner in order to elect the most qualified candidates. Nigeria wishes to reiterate the need not to compromise the issue of higher moral character of candidates seeking elective offices within the court system, as that is the only way the credibility of the court can be sustained. Mr. President, sir, in conclusion, let me congratulate in advance whoever eventually emerges as the prosecutor and judges to be elected in this session. I can assure you that Nigeria will work and cooperate with you in discharging the onerous tasks of your offices. Mr. President and fellow delegates, I thank you all for your kind attention and wish you fruitful session. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Malami, for your statement. Now we will hear a pre-recorded statement of His Excellency Mr. Urmas Reinsalu, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Estonia.
Itself with a statement made by Germany on behalf of the European Union and its member states, and wishes to add a few remarks in its national capacity. Estonia expresses its firm commitment to multilateralism and rules-based international order. For us, application of international law, including the Rome Statute, is vital. As a long-standing supporter of the International Criminal Court, we reiterate our strong support to the role and mandate of the court to respond to atrocity crimes, fight impunity, and ensure justice for the victims. We do have full confidence in the court as an independent and impartial judicial institution. We would like to commend the court and its leadership that despite the challenges the court and its staff faced in this year, the court has continued its judicial activities in honouring the commitments of the Rome Statute and has adapted its work to comply with ongoing difficulties on the harsh times of coronavirus. Effectiveness and efficiency of the court depends on all states' cooperation. In case an ICC suspect is not subject to domestic proceedings for the particular grave crimes and as indicated in respective ICC warrants, all states need to fully engage and cooperate with the ICC for the arrest and surrender to The Hague of the remaining suspects. We call on all states and stakeholders to offer the full cooperation to the ICC. We would also like to underline the particular role of the Security Council to respond decisively to grave violations of international law, as it is the prerogative of the Security Council to refer a situation to the court. The Security Council needs to respond meaningfully to grave violations of international humanitarian law and human rights law, wherever they occur, and states should refrain from voting against initiatives that prevent or halt mass atrocities. Mr. President, in the context of upcoming elections of 6 judges and nomination of the prosecutor of the court, it is pertinent to remind ourselves that the most highly qualified judges and prosecutor with high moral character should be elected in an open and transparent procedure, upholding the values of the Rome Statute. This is the common responsibility of all states parties, with the valuable assistance of the civic society. High quality of judges and prosecutor forms an essential element in the quality of the decisions made. We would like to thank and commend Prosecutor Fatou Bensouda for her dedicated work during her term of office, as her term of office will end next summer. The court plays an important role in delivering justice to victims, providing assistance and awarding reparations. We express our continued support to the Trust Fund for Victims in offering reparations for victims, their families and communities. As voluntary contributions contribute considerably to the success of their work, we encourage states, irrespective of whether they are state parties or not, and other donors, to make voluntary contributions to the Trust Fund. Estonia has regularly contributed to the fund and intends to continue to do so. Taking into account the budgetary challenges the court currently faces, we can also support the court by paying our financial contributions towards the court at the earliest possible time. We encourage all states that are in arrears in the payment of their financial contributions to make every effort to liquidate their arrears or decrease them to the maximum extent possible. And states serving us at different elected posts can set a positive example in this regard. This year we welcome extensive work carried out by the group of independent experts and their report with concrete recommendations how to strengthen the Rome Statute system and enhance ICC's efficiency and effectiveness. It is of particular importance that the court and its organs have expressed their readiness to engage in the process. The ASP should give our support to the follow-up process in cooperation of all relevant stakeholders, while bearing in mind to respect and safeguard the judicial and prosecutorial independence of the court. We also encourage the court to pay attention to enhancing effectiveness of its strategic communication in order to increase its visibility and raise public awareness of its activities. Promoting the Court and the Rome Statute plays also a positive role in striving for the universal acceptance of the Rome Statute, which remains a challenge for the international community. This year, the total count of states parties has risen to 123 after Kiribati's accession to the Rome Statute. We continue our call on all the governments that have not yet ratified the Rome Statute to do so. Estonia is finalizing its term in the Bureau of ASP under the able leadership of President Ogon Kwon, whom we warmly thank. We express our support to the continuous important work of the Bureau and the ACP in tackling the questions ahead. In closing, let me express Estonia's steadfast, continuous commitment to work together with all partners to further the work of the ICC and strengthen the system of international criminal justice. Thank you and remain healthy.
I thank Minister Reinsal Salu for his statement. Now we will hear a pre-recorded statement of Her Excellency Dr. Katrin Eggenberger, Minister of Foreign Affairs, Justice and Culture of Liechtenstein.
Mr. President, the unprecedented conditions under which we meet this year as state parties to the Rome Statute are matched by the extraordinary challenges the International Criminal Court is facing today. The court has been exposed to a new level and type of external pressure and measures that are incompatible with even the most basic notions of the rule of law. We join in the call for these measures to be revoked as quickly as possible. In addition, the court and the Rome Statute system are facing further difficulties which get less public exposure, but can also have, in the midterm, the effect of undermining the court's effectiveness. It is thus our hope and expectation that this Assembly will make decisions that are the result of transparent and inclusive consultations that enable us to chart a way forward that is well-informed and best serves the interest of international justice. Mr. President, this year we celebrated 75 years of the existence of the United Nations, the finest achievement of multilateral diplomacy to this day and the birthplace of the ICC. The commemoration of the 75th anniversary of the Nuremberg trials also this year was an important reminder of how far we have come since the launching of the International Justice Project, and how important it is to fight and safeguard for what we have achieved. There was a lot of wisdom in our collective decision as state parties to make The Hague the seat of the court. Indeed, the international law capital of the world with a host government that is willing to stand up and fight for the court during difficult times. I want to take this opportunity to thank our colleagues from the Netherlands for the outstanding support they have extended to the ICC in the last few very difficult months. If the court is perfectly situated in The Hague, it can only thrive if it enjoys a vibrant and dynamic relationship with the UN system, which is headquartered in New York. This Assembly can benefit enormously if it finds its way back to a notion of shared responsibility with a clear understanding of specific but also joint duties between The Hague and New York. We have the choice of making our cooperation a source of strengths and serve the best interest of the court, or weaken ourselves with internal strife to the determinant of the court's success. We will always opt for the former. Mr. President, I also wish to thank the eminent international criminal justice experts under the leadership of Justice Goldstone, who have engaged in an independent expert review of the ICC and the Rome Statute system, carrying out a mandate given by the Assembly at its 18th session. We now have the opportunity to engage in a joint exercise that addresses the court's shortcomings and align its performance better with the vision of the drafters of the Rome Statute. The importance of this effort cannot be overstated. This is a crucial opportunity that we must not miss and the ultimate test for us to overcome narrow and short-sighted priorities to the benefit of a real political vision for this institution. We can only do this if we do it together. States parties together with the court, states parties together with civil society, and most importantly, states parties together. For this session of the Assembly, we are simply looking for a framework decision that will make this possible in an inclusive and transparent manner, and a format that fully safeguards the independence of the court and the integrity of the Rome Statute, which has stood the test of time and continues to stand out as a masterpiece of international treaty making. Mr. President, at the time of this recording of this statement, the Assembly has seemed to finally find its way back to a process to agree on the best possible person to head the office of the prosecutor for the next 9 years. The fact that this is a choice of the highest possible importance is uncontested. It should also be uncontested that the court's interests are best served if this decision is made in a consensual manner. We regret that precious months have been lost since the Committee on the Election of the Prosecutor published its report and the names of selected candidates for the next ICC prosecutor. The most important challenge for us continues to be making the best possible choice, and to do so to the extent possible with the parameters we had set ourselves by adopting a merit-based approach for the selection of the next prosecutor. Once we have made our choice together, we should expeditiously examine the selection process in all its aspects to have a clear understanding of what needs to be improved next time, far away as the decision will be. We continue to be deeply convinced that the Assembly must benefit from a selection process that relies on the independent advice from a panel of experts. At the same time, we are the first ones to say that the push for deviation from the process that unfolded in the last few months must not be repeated in the future, as it had a negative impact on the ability of this Assembly to govern its affairs in a professional and transparent manner. Mr. President, like many other small and mid-sized states, we have treated the ICC as a key priority in our foreign policy engagement for many years now. I'm proud to be the convener of the informal ministerial network for the ICC, the IMN, whose purpose is to generate political and diplomatic support for the court when it is most needed. We have voiced our dissatisfaction with aspects of the court's performance privately and publicly, and we will continue to do so when necessary. And we will continue to reach out to those who can do more, in our view, to lend operational support to the court. We will also continue our advocacy for universality, both as far as striving to further expand the number of state parties, and as far as the full inclusion and active participation of each and every state party from all regions of the world that has committed to the fight against impunity for the most serious crimes under international law, with the ICC at its core. The Nuremberg trials commenced 75 years ago. They were of unprecedented historic importance, led to the call for the creation of a permanent independent international criminal court with jurisdiction over the gravest crimes known to humankind, and helped us to make informed decisions in drafting the Rome Statute. We have now had a permanent international criminal court for 2 decades, a dream long deemed impossible. And we now have the chance to make it work better and equip it fully for the realities of the 21st century and its enormous accountability challenges, including those arising from new methods of warfare. Let's make sure that this session of the Assembly of States Parties is a big step in the right direction. Thank you.
I thank Minister Eggenberger for her statement. We'll now hear the statement of Her Excellency Mrs. Nabila Farida Tunis, Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation of Sierra Leone.
Mr. President, colleague ministers, excellencies, distinguished representatives, in the most challenging of circumstances, we find ourselves as state parties to the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court. Allow me at the outset to commend the leadership of the Assembly of the state parties and indeed the Court for the remarkable business continuity this calendar year. Much like the arc of the moral universe, which may be long but bends towards justice, the arc of our quest to end impunity for atrocity crimes may face challenges, but certainly bends towards justice and accountability, noting the centrality of our permanent International Criminal Court within the Rome Statute system. In this regard, we take note with appreciation of the notable developments in the work of the Court in the past session. Mr. President, the Assembly of State Parties and the Court will go through leadership changes this session, and allow me to commend the ASP presidency for your service, leadership, and the work accomplished. I take this opportunity to acknowledge the principles of the Court and express commendation for the unwavering commitment to the Court. As this is the last ASP general debate during their respective terms in office, allow me to pay tribute to the President of the Court, Judge Chile Ibo Osuji, and the Prosecutor, Fatou Bensouda, for their outstanding contributions to the Court. Sierra Leone, further cognizant of the imminent leadership changes in the judiciary, duly acknowledges the importance of nominating and electing as judges qualified, competent, and experienced persons of the highest quality and of high moral character, impartiality, and integrity. In this regard, the government of Sierra Leone, on the recommendation of the Autonomous Judicial and Legal Service Commission, has nominated Justice Miata Maria Samba for election as judge of the International Criminal Court for the term 2021 to 2030. The Advisory Committee on Nominations, the ACN, based on Justice Samba's professional experience and answers during her interview, concluded that she is highly qualified for appointment as judge of the court. The ACN further acknowledged her extensive and wide-ranging national judicial experience, her service in numerous other functions at the national and international levels, her demonstrable in-depth knowledge of the Rome Statute system and the jurisprudence of the court. The committee also cited her considerable and clearly relevant experience in working with witnesses and victims at both the national and international levels, including in the field, as well as her legal expertise on specific issues, particularly violence against women and children. As we approach the elections in the resumed 19th session in New York, Sierra Leone looks forward to your favorable consideration of her candidacy and vote. Mr. President, nominating a highly qualified female candidate with high moral character is demonstrative of Sierra Leone's commitment to the ICC. We therefore take this opportunity to restate our unwavering support for the court as an independent and impartial judicial institution. Sierra Leone therefore continues to reaffirm the great importance we attach to the work of the court, the effective functioning of the Rome Statute system, and our unwavering belief in the necessity of the principle of complementarity. Linked to our commitment to the court is our support for its vision as it strives to be universal, responsive, flexible, and resilient, with a consistent outlook towards continuous improvement. In this regard, we welcome the independent expert review of the ICC and the Rome Statute system and the publication of the final report by the independent expert. Sierra Leone will remain fully engaged constructively as we collectively and transparently proceed to assess the recommendations for implementation. In closing, Mr. President, notwithstanding the challenges and threats to the court, Sierra Leone remains firmly committed to its mandate and its status as an independent and impartial judicial institution. This commitment, we reiterate, is for the victims. At the heart of the work of the court are the victims, on whose behalf we have this accountability system. We accordingly welcome the participation of more than 11,000 victims in the cases before the court and commend the Trust Fund for Victims for the discharge of its mandate. It is in recognition of the important work of the Trust Fund for Victims that Sierra Leone made a financial contribution as pledged in the 18th Assembly of State Parties meeting. The victims, we believe, must be at the fore and the center in all our considerations of the International Criminal Court. I thank you.
I thank the Minister for her statement. We will now hear the statement of His Excellency Mr. Dominic Raab, First Secretary of State and Secretary of State for Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Affairs of the UK.
Back in 2003 to 2006, I was posted to The Hague as a young Foreign Office lawyer. And during that time, I had the privilege of working on ICC cases relating to the Lord's Resistance Army, Darfur, and the Democratic Republic of the Congo. I also had the opportunity to attend meetings of the ICC's Assembly of States Parties. So I know firsthand of the dedication of ICC staff, the impact the ICC has, and also its iconic symbolism as a force for good in the world. The UK has always been and remains absolutely committed to promoting international criminal justice and the rule of law in our international relations and including through the ICC. The UK was a founder member of the ICC and we strongly support its aims and its objectives. The UK strongly believes that to maintain and reinforce the court's vital role, we must also continue to deliver on reform. We see the need to focus on strengthening the court in three particular areas. First, its effectiveness and its impact. We want to see the court maintaining the very highest legal standards and conducting efficient, timely and effective investigations and prosecutions. Secondly, we think that following the court statute, we need to see a clearer and more consistent approach to the application of the complementarity principle. Now, according to its mandate, the ICC should only step in where national authorities are genuinely unable or unwilling to investigate or prosecute. And third, on governance and efficiency, the court needs to take a more rigorous approach to ensuring financial discipline, rigorously prioritising and being realistic about what it can achieve, particularly at this challenging time. The UK was very pleased to support the independent expert review at last year's Assembly. And at this year's meeting, I hope that states parties will adopt a resolution to ensure that the review's recommendations are taken forward quickly. That's the best way to ensure that real reforms are achieved and to ensure that we follow an inclusive, state party-driven process for implementing the measures needed to strengthen the court. Our commitment runs deep, and I believe this is highlighted by the excellent candidate that we're putting forward for the ICC Judicial Elections in Judge Joanna Corner. I've known Judge Corner since she was a senior advocate at the International Criminal Tribunal for the former Yugoslavia. She's a formidable judge. She is exceptionally well qualified for this role. And her candidacy is part of the UK's enduring commitment to a process of strengthening the court. It's vital that we nominate and then elect the most highly qualified and experienced judges for the credibility and the efficiency of the ICC. I think it's also vital to select the right prosecutor, as this is critically important to reform and the future health of the court. So I urge the Assembly to select the candidate best able to lead and manage an efficient and a highly effective prosecution team, delivering convictions, dispensing fair justice, which is what the world wants to see. The UK strongly supports the steps the Assembly is taking to tackle the challenges facing the court. We're pleased this work has started, but I think we all appreciate that more effort is required on the part of this Assembly, all organs of the court and its supporters to drive reform designed to reinforce its impact and its standing in the world. If we work together, we can build a court that is even more effective and more efficient, a court that delivers justice for victims and accountability for the most serious crimes, a court that delivers its mandate with credibility and confidence. Thank you.
I thank First Secretary Raab for his statement. We will now hear the statement of His Excellency Mr. Pekka Haavisto, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Finland.
Mr. President, Finland aligns herself with the statement of the European Union. Let me start by expressing our sincere appreciation to all the officials of the court for their work. We commend the ICC for continuing its work without any suspensions and finding new working methods to ensure the functioning of the court even during the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. Ending impunity for the most serious international crimes is a high priority for Finland. The ICC constitutes an essential pillar of the rules-based international order. We remain committed to safeguarding the independence of the court and the integrity of the Rome Statute. We are deeply concerned about the recent attempts to prevent the ICC from delivering its mandate. We condemn any attempts to undermine the work of the court and continue to call for the withdrawal of all such measures taken against the court, its officials and staff. Mr. President, a year ago, the states parties launched the independent expert review in order to identify ways to strengthen the ICC and the Rome Statute system. While the report contains a number of recommendations for improvements, the aim is to support the mission of the court that, in the words of the experts, continues to be as crucial as ever. The final report of the group of the independent experts is extensive and thorough, but it is only the starting point. The states parties and the court must remain committed to strengthening the ICC and the Rome Statute system. In order for the court to be able to function efficiently, it needs to be properly funded and provided with sufficient resources. We call upon all states parties to continue to provide the court with the necessary financial resources and to pay their annual contributions in time. Mr. President, it is again time for judicial elections, and the mandate of the prosecutor is also drawing to a close. These are vital positions for justice to be done, and I would like to extend our thanks for the valuable service of those who will be leaving the court. It's of utmost importance to elect the most qualified candidates to carry on the mission for the victims of the crimes under the Rome Statute. We have greatly valued the public roundtables of the candidates, a most useful initiative that the civil society initially launched and that the Assembly now applied for the first time for the judicial candidates. Mr. President, the ICC was created to end impunity and bring justice to those whose voices are often left unheard. Fighting impunity also means advancing the rule of law and safeguarding human rights. These objectives are important elements of Finland's human rights-based foreign and security policy. We commend the work of the ICC Trust Fund for Victims. Addressing the plight of victims of sexual and gender-based violence, often women and girls, has been a special priority for Finland. We are a long-standing supporter of the Trust Fund for Victims. Our second multi-year contribution, amounting again to 800,000 euros in 4 years, is coming to an end, but we are planning to continue our financial support. The ICC remains, without question, the most important global actor in the fight against impunity. It's essential that we remain committed to protecting the integrity and judicial independence of the ICC and continue to work with the court and all the stakeholders in order to strengthen the court and the Rome Statute system as a whole. Thank you.
I thank Minister Haavisto for his statement. Now we will hear the statement of His Excellency Mr. Jeppe Kofod, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Denmark.
Mr. President, it is a great pleasure to address the 19th Assembly of the State Parties. The Court is at a crucial point in its development. As parties to the Rome Statute, we are part of shaping the future of the Court. The Court is an important part of upholding the rule-based international order. It's also still a young institution and it's evolving to overcome the challenges it faces. Mr. President, we have worked hard to launch the review process and now have a solid basis for moving forward. I urge all to engage constructively in the effort by the Presidency to reach an ambitious resolution on the assessment and implementation of the recommendations advanced by the experts. The review is an opportunity to show commitment to a well-functioning, efficient and effective Rome Statute system. This is a joint responsibility for state parties and the Court. Mr. President, the Rome Statute is based on the principle of complementarity. It relies on the cooperation of state parties. We must continue our efforts in these areas and refine the balance between national jurisdictions and the Court. A well-managed and result-oriented Court is the best tool for achieving the goal of universality. We work hard to achieve universal membership of the Court, but we also recognize that some states are not yet ready to join the statute. Our relationship with non-state parties must be based on dialogue and mutual respect. Suggestions for reform from non-state parties are not necessarily illegitimate, but we will fiercely protect the principle of independence and impartiality that underpinned the Rome Statute. Mr. President, the election of highly qualified judges is paramount. It is foundational for the quality of trials and development of consistent jurisprudence. How we approach the upcoming elections greatly impacts the Court. Equally important is election of the next prosecutor. The prosecutor selects and prioritizes cases, thereby shaping the work of the Court. We need the most qualified person for this complex job. My delegation fully supports finding a consensus candidate. Mr. President, I want to pay tribute to the strong work of the outgoing prosecutor, the President of the Court, and Mr. Ogon Kwong, President of the Assembly. Finally, I want to thank our Ambassador, Jens Otto Horslund, who's tirelessly worked as Vice President of the Assembly. Is a credit to his country. Mr. President, the Court is a young institution, but already a key pillar in the fight against impunity. The Court must provide with the necessary resources and support. We owe it to the victims to persevere in the fight for justice and accountability. Denmark will continue to support this endeavor. Thank you.
I thank Minister Kofod for his statement. We will now hear the statement of Her Excellency Ms. Sophie Vilmes, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Foreign Affairs, European Affairs and Foreign Trade and Federal Cultural Institutions of Belgium.
Monsieur le Président de l'Assemblée, Monsieur le Président de la Cour, Madame la procureure, Monsieur le greffier, Mesdames et Messieurs les représentants de la Cour, distingués délégués. Je me réjouis que nous ayons pu nous rassembler pour cette 19e session en nous adaptant aux contraintes justifiées par la crise sanitaire mondiale. Tout au long de cette crise sanitaire, les conflits armés ont continué à faire des victimes. Cette pandémie nous a montré à quel point il est essentiel de s'unir pour protéger les plus faibles. La Cour pénale internationale accorde une place particulière aux plus fragilisés, les victimes. Elle doit leur permettre d'être enfin reconnus et traités dignement. La Belgique est fortement attachée au rôle de la Cour à leur égard. Concrètement, mon pays a décidé de contribuer en 2020 au fonds au profit des victimes à hauteur de 525 000 € et prévoit une nouvelle contribution à ce fonds en 2021. Monsieur le Président, dans le contexte actuel, la Cour a besoin, plus que jamais, de voir tous les États parties unir leurs efforts pour l'aider à remplir sa mission. Et c'est dans cet esprit que la Belgique a assumé ces 2 dernières années la fonction de point focal pour la Cour au sein du Conseil de sécurité des Nations Unies. Nous avons veillé à mobiliser les États parties membres du Conseil afin d'y défendre et promouvoir les intérêts de la Cour et de garantir une base juridique solide à la coopération essentielle entre les Nations Unies et la Cour. Les enjeux de la session qui s'ouvre aujourd'hui sont multiples. Tout d'abord, la Cour a besoin du soutien ferme des États parties pour faire face aux mesures de sanctions dont elle fait l'objet de la part des autorités américaines. Ces sanctions entravent gravement le bon fonctionnement de la Cour, mettent à mal son intégrité et menacent son indépendance. Cette session doit être l'occasion de nous unir pour condamner les mesures prises et formuler le souhait d'un revirement d'attitude de la part de la nouvelle administration. Un autre enjeu important de cette session constitue la mise en place d'un mécanisme efficace, transparent et inclusif pour assurer un suivi à l'exercice d'évaluation de la Cour et du système du statut de Rome. Les experts indépendants ont fait un travail de grande qualité et dressé une liste de recommandations adressées tant à la Cour qu'aux États parties. Je salue leur travail. Pour atteindre les objectifs recherchés, nous devons nous montrer unis et prendre chacun nos responsabilités. Monsieur le Président, durant cette session, les États auront également à élire 6 nouveaux juges afin qu'un nouveau procureur. Je rappelle l'attachement de mon pays à la recherche d'un procureur derrière lequel nous nous rangerons tous, parce qu'il aurait été reconnu comme le candidat le plus hautement qualifié et le plus expérimenté pour ce poste. Il est essentiel que ce candidat fasse consensus. La Belgique ne doute pas que les postes de juges seront également pourvus par les meilleurs candidats. C'est dans cet objectif que mon pays a présenté la candidature de Mme Laurence Massard, magistrate pénale depuis plus de 25 ans et actuellement première présidente de la Cour d'appel de Bruxelles. Un autre objectif principal de l'Assemblée est de fournir à la Cour les moyens dont elle a besoin en adoptant son budget. Et je me réjouis de l'accord trouvé sur le montant alloué à la Cour pour l'année 2021. Je suis toutefois profondément préoccupée par le problème de trésorerie qu'elle rencontre depuis plusieurs années. La Belgique a contribué à une solution en affectant un paiement anticipé de sa contribution au budget 21. Les États parties doivent prendre leurs responsabilités et s'unir pour trouver une solution durable. Je souhaite également profiter de cette intervention pour attirer l'attention des États parties sur le drame que constitue la perpétration de crimes graves à l'environnement. La Belgique estime qu'il serait utile d'examiner la possibilité d'introduire les crimes dits d'écocide dans le système du statut de Rome, dans le cadre des travaux de nos prochaines sessions. Monsieur le Président, la Cour pénale internationale, pilier de la lutte contre l'impunité et de l'état de droit, mérite que nous nous rassemblions autour d'elle pour mieux la soutenir et la renforcer. Ce n'est qu'en unissant nos forces que nous parviendrons à construire pour les générations futures un monde plus juste. Je terminerai en partageant avec vous la devise de mon pays. Il s'agit de « l'union fait la force ». Cette devise, ici et aujourd'hui, prend tout son sens. Je vous remercie.
I thank the Minister for her statement. We will now hear the statement of His Excellency Mr. Emery Brown, Minister of Foreign and CARICOM Affairs of Trinidad and Tobago.
Mr. President, Trinidad and Tobago welcomes this opportunity to address another general debate of the distinguished Assembly of States Parties to the Rome Statute of the ICC. The ASP represents for us an opportunity to renew our commitment to international peace and security and the pursuit of justice. This past year has been particularly challenging, and we must express our heartfelt appreciation to those who have persevered and sacrificed to discharge the mandate of the ICC to bring to justice the perpetrators of the most serious crimes of concern to the international community. Mr. President, as this is the final assembly of states parties before the end of the term of Ms. Fatou Bensouda as prosecutor of the ICC, I take this opportunity on behalf of Trinidad and Tobago to recognize her dedication and steadfastness despite the many unprecedented efforts to dissuade her and her office. In the face of this challenge, the prosecutor and her office have demonstrated those singular qualities of duty and commitment to the ICC. We look forward to seeing this level of fearlessness and independence from her successor. Indeed, our national position continues to be one of unwavering support for the court and its officials, and we remain part of the collective voice upholding the integrity of the Rome Statute system. The ICC is, after all, a court of last resort, and the court's jurisdiction is only invoked when states are unable or unwilling to prosecute those alleged to have committed grave crimes. The presumption of innocence until guilt is proven remains a tenet of the court. That being said, Trinidad and Tobago calls upon states to cooperate, as necessary, with the ICC at all stages of investigations and proceedings, including cooperating in issuing arrest warrants and transfer of suspects to be tried by the court. States should also adopt legislation at the national level to ensure that criminals are not allowed to act with impunity. In light of this, we underline our support for the current budget to ensure that the court has adequate resources and call on states that are in a position to do so to also contribute to the Trust Fund for Victims. Mr. President, Trinidad and Tobago read with interest the independent expert review of the ICC, and while concerned at some of the findings, we look forward to the implementation of the required recommendations. It cannot be denied that the ICC, within its jurisdiction, continues to be a symbol of hope to victims of atrocities who are seeking justice. As a responsible state party, Trinidad and Tobago will remain steadfast in our support for the ICC. As such, we will continue to pursue the goal of universalization of the Rome Statute and will maintain efforts within our region toward implementation, including through the hosting of ICC meetings in the Caribbean, as was last done in 2017. And finally, Mr. President, I use this occasion to remind state parties of the excellent candidate of Trinidad and Tobago, the Honorable Madam Justice Althea Alexis Windsor, a judge of the Supreme Court of Trinidad and Tobago. She is our candidate for election to the bench of the ICC at elections to take place during the reconvened ASP in New York in the coming days. Strongly endorsed by CARICOM, Judge Alexis Windsor possesses over 23 years of experience in criminal law, human rights law, and international humanitarian law. She is currently a judge of the Supreme Court in Trinidad and Tobago, enhanced by almost 10 years of experience at the International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda. The ICC Advisory Committee on Nominations of Judges also considers her highly qualified for appointment as judge of the ICC, and Trinidad and Tobago is requesting the support of all states parties for her election. Mr. President, I thank you.
I thank Minister Brown for his statement. Now we'll hear the statement of His Excellency Mr. Augusto Santos Silva of Portugal.
Mr. President, distinguished delegates, I am honored to address today the Assembly of State Parties to the Rome Statute. Let me begin by thanking you, Mr. President, for chairing the Assembly of States Parties during the past 3 years. I would like to show my appreciation of the outgoing judges and to the prosecutor for their devoted service to the International Criminal Court, even when faced with many challenges and external pressures. The International Criminal Court plays a key role towards accountability for the most serious crimes that threaten the peace, security, and well-being of the world, while bringing justice to victims. The role of the court is much more than just a simple exercise of retribution. By investigating, the court contributes to a reliable account of traumatic events. By prosecuting, the court assures communities that the most basic human values endure. By merely existing, the court tells the world that there is no other option than a society centered on the dignity of the human person and the promotion and protection of human rights. With this in mind, Portugal has always been and will continue to be a supporter of the court as an independent judicial institution. We are strongly committed to preserving the integrity and universality of the Rome Statute. The independence of the International Criminal Court, of any court, is crucial for the performance of its mandate, and therefore, measures that aim at threatening the work of this court need to be withdrawn. As any institution, the court is not perfect. However, we are confident that through a constructive dialogue with all the relevant stakeholders, we will be able to address the challenges and to nourish the court's accomplishments. Portugal would like to commend the independent experts for their extensive and comprehensive report on ways to strengthen the court and the Rome Statute system in order to promote universal recognition of their central role in the global fight against impunity and to enhance their overall functioning. It is now the state parties and the court's turn to address those issues and assess the recommendations made by the experts. We must take joint action towards increasing the effectiveness of the ICC while maintaining a dialogue throughout the entire process. Mr. President, new judges and a new prosecutor are scheduled to be elected at the present session. Their contribution will be fundamental to the crucial role of the ICC needs to play in the international criminal justice system. Portugal would like to express its satisfaction with the procedure and the nomination and the election of judges. In our view, it has contributed to the transparency of the process itself, and it will contribute to the credibility of the court. Let me end by pledging once more the support of Portugal to the ICC. Portugal is committed to working with you and every delegation towards a successful session of the Assembly of States Parties. Thank you very much.
I thank Minister Santos Silva for his statement. Now we'll hear the statement of Her Excellency Ms. Ine Marie Søreide of Norway.
Mr. President, Excellencies and colleagues, it's a great privilege to address this Assembly on behalf of Norway. Norway has been a staunch supporter of the International Criminal Court from the outset. The mission of the ICC is as crucial as ever. Norway will remain a consistent partner in the fight against impunity. 2020 has been a challenging year for all of us, not least for the ICC. The court has managed to maintain an impressive level of activity despite the pandemic. We would like to express our sincere appreciation of the dedicated work of all the court officials and staff. This year also saw the imposition of sanctions against court officials and staff, and this is unacceptable. Sanctions are a tool to be used against those responsible for the most serious crimes, not against those seeking justice. Norway stands firmly with the court. We must continue to unite against any attempts to undermine the court's independence. The court and the Rome Statute system have been subject to an independent expert review during this difficult time. If organizations are to thrive, they need to subject themselves to periodic review and reform. Only in this way can they build on their strengths for the future. And Norway wants to see a strong, effective and independent court. Together with the other Nordic countries, Norway provided concrete suggestions for improvements under the expert review. This is a reflection of our keen interest in the well-being of the court. The independent experts have identified a number of shortcomings of the ICC and the Rome Statute system. The report shows that there is a widespread and urgent need for improvement. We have 384 recommendations from the experts to consider. It is imperative that we as state parties and the court act on them. The efficiency and independence of the court will also be dependent on highly qualified professional leadership. And when casting votes for 6 new judges, our overriding consideration should be on merit. This is key to promote a high-quality judiciary and ensure the legitimacy of the ICC. We must also elect the highest qualified candidate as the next prosecutor. It's important to select someone who has both extensive experience in handling complex criminal investigations and good managerial skills. The election must be transparent, non-political, and merit-based. Even before the election takes place, I assure the next prosecutor that she or he can count on Norway's full support and cooperation. I would also like to express our sincere gratitude to Prosecutor Bensouda for her tireless efforts to seek justice for atrocity crimes. Mr. President, let me conclude by reiterating Norway's strong commitment to the mission and mandate of the ICC. This year's assembly takes place under challenging circumstances. We nevertheless look forward to productive discussions on how to strengthen our court and the Rome Statute system. Thank you.
I thank Minister Søreide's statement. Next, we'll hear the statement of His Excellency Mr. Nikos Christodoulides of Cyprus.
Mr. President, dear colleagues, it is an honor to address this session of the Assembly of the State Parties of the Rome Statute. Cyprus fully aligns itself with the statement made by Germany on behalf of the European Union. Dear friends, our firm support to the International Criminal Court and the Rome Statute system remains unwavering. In a world challenged by conflicts and serious international crimes against civilians, the vision of the international community that led to the adoption of the Rome Statute is today more relevant than ever. As state parties, we have to join forces in defending the court against external pressures and allow it to exercise its complementary jurisdiction with full independence and impartiality. We should also enhance our cooperation with the court. During the past year, Cyprus repeatedly voiced its support for the ICC at the United Nations and other fora in view of the measures against the court and its officials. As a country that continues to suffer from the grave consequences of foreign aggression, Cyprus is committed in contributing to the global vision of holding accountable the perpetrators for genocide, crimes against humanity, war crimes, and the crime of aggression. To this aim, Cyprus will remain an active, engaged state party, making positive contributions to the work of the Assembly. Dear colleagues, this Assembly, that takes place during an unprecedented global health crisis, will take very important decisions for the future work of the International Criminal Court. We look forward to the election of the most qualified 6 new judges and the court's next prosecutor. I particularly wish to express our sincere appreciation to the Committee on the election of the next prosecutor and the panel of experts for their important contribution in this process. The annual budget that will also be adopted should provide the court the necessary financial resources to exercise its important mandate, especially amid the pandemic and financial pressure created by external measures against it. The independent experts' review is an important basis for the necessary reform decisions that will allow the court to reach its full potential. While discussing potential reforms as a follow-up to the review, we should fully respect the fundamental principles and the integrity of the Rome Statute, as well as the court's judicial independence. In closing, I would like to reaffirm the firm commitment of Cyprus to the rule-based international order, with the International Criminal Court as the cornerstone of international criminal justice. The vision of accountability for the most serious international crimes will persevere with the support of all of us. I wish to all delegates a very productive session of the Assembly of the State Parties.
I thank Minister Christodoulidis' statement. We will now hear the statement of His Excellency Mr. Jean Asselborn, Minister of Foreign Affairs and European Affairs of Luxembourg.
Monsieur le Président de l'Assemblée, le Luxembourg demeure, surtout au moment où le monde doit faire face à la pandémie, un fervent défenseur de la Cour pénale internationale. La Cour est une institution indispensable pour combattre l'impunité et promouvoir un ordre international fondé sur le droit. En contribuant au respect du droit international humanitaire et de l'état de droit, la Cour favorise une paix durable et traduit en termes concrets notre engagement en faveur des droits de l'homme et de l'état de droit. Monsieur le Président de la Cour, Madame la procureure, la Cour doit être en mesure de travailler de manière impartiale et sans entrave. La neutralité et l'indépendance de la Cour sont essentielles pour son bon fonctionnement. Il importe de protéger la Cour et son personnel contre toute pression ou menace externe visant à entraver le cours de la justice et affaiblir le système international de justice pénale. Pour relever les défis communs auxquels nous faisons face, les divergences politiques ne sauraient être résolues par des mesures unilatérales. Le Luxembourg appelle au retrait des mesures frappant la Cour, dont les restrictions financières et de voyage dans les tout meilleurs délais. Cette Assemblée des États partis porte une responsabilité particulière avec l'élection de 6 nouveaux juges. Il importe d'élire les personnes les plus hautement qualifiées selon un processus rigoureux et aussi transparent. La Cour est aussi efficace et respectée que le sont les femmes et les hommes qui la composent. À cet égard, je tiens à remercier vivement Madame la procureure Fatou Bensouda pour les efforts effort qu'elle a déployé tout au long de son mandat, ainsi que son équipe au bureau du procureur. L'évaluation par les experts indépendants nous donne l'occasion de rassembler les États parties, le personnel de la Cour, les experts et la société civile dans un effort commun visant à renforcer davantage l'efficacité du travail de la Cour. Saisissons cette occasion pour rendre la Cour plus résiliente et plus performante dans une approche inclusive et transparente afin qu'elle soit pleinement préparée à affronter les défis futurs. Les victimes doivent être au cœur des efforts visant à lutter contre l'impunité. Il importe qu'elles disposent du droit à un recours effectif et à recevoir réparation. À cet égard, le Luxembourg vient de décider de rehausser sa contribution au fonds au profit des victimes. Je tiens également à réitérer l'engagement du Luxembourg pour renforcer la redevabilité en ce qui concerne les violences sexuelles et les violences basées sur le genre, ainsi que les violences faites aux enfants. Sans la Cour et les efforts des États, en vertu du principe de complémentarité, la protection accordée aux victimes des crimes internationaux les plus graves serait affaiblie. Tout comme les victimes comptent sur la Cour elle-même doit pouvoir compter sur les États pour exécuter ses mandats d'arrêt et autres mesures judiciaires pour recueillir des preuves et avoir accès aux témoins. La coopération avec la Cour est donc cruciale. Il s'agit d'une responsabilité qui nous incombe à tous. Je salue dans ce contexte surtout la mission historique que la procureure a effectuée à Khartoum en octobre de cette année, la première mission au Soudan depuis 2007. Le renouveau des relations entre le Soudan et la Cour montre que des progrès sont possibles, même dans les situations les plus difficiles. Je me félicite de l'engagement des autorités soudanaises dans l'espoir qu'ils puissent mener une coopération effective. Monsieur le Président, les victimes des crimes internationaux méritent que justice soit rendue, où qu'elle se trouve. Les responsables de ces crimes doivent être traduits en justice et répondre à leurs actes. Je vous remercie.
I thank Minister Asselborn for his statement. Now we shall hear the statement of Her Excellency, Ms. Marina Sereni, Vice Minister, Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Italy.
Mr. President, I'm honored to address the Assembly of State Parties on behalf of the Italian government. Italy fully aligns with the intervention on behalf of the European Union and its member states. Nowadays, we are all confronted with a pandemic which has generated a widespread and dangerous sense of uncertainty. While recognizing that COVID-19 virus has not been defeated yet, it is our duty to look beyond the crisis. The most effective and structural answer to the challenges we are facing lies in a reformed and enhanced multilateralism. Only a rule-based international system centered on universal values, fundamental rights, equality and inclusiveness will be able to lead to a long-lasting solution to the present crisis. Italy considers the International Criminal Code, alongside national jurisdictions, a pillar in the international rule-based order and a pivotal instrument for fighting impunity and strengthening accountability for the most serious crimes. The court sits at the apex of the broader system supporting international criminal justice and accountability. As a matter of fact, it plays a key role in holding perpetrators of those crimes accountable and providing justice for victims. The focus on victims is an essential element of international criminal justice. Italy considers that the role of the court consists not only in bringing perpetrators to justice, but also in delivering justice to those primarily affected by crimes committed. In this way, the court can really contribute to building conditions for sustainable peace and post-conflict reconciliation. For these reasons, Italy has decided to contribute to the Trust Fund for Victims at the International Criminal Court. As the central pillar of a global system of international justice, neutrality, independence and complementarity are crucial elements for the functioning of the International Criminal Court. In order to make the court stronger and more effective, Italy attaches great importance to the efforts aimed at reviewing its functioning. In this regard, I would like to commend the work of the independent expert group, which will guide all the relevant stakeholders in the important process of reform of the ICC. In this framework, Italy underlines the need to continuously observe and safeguard the judicial and prosecutorial independence of the court and the integrity of the Rome Statute throughout the review process. We also emphasize the need to ensure proper management, oversight, good governance and administrative accountability throughout the prosecutorial and judicial activities. Owing to the extensive nature of the report and the number of recommendations suggested, we share the view on the need to address them in an orderly and structured way, also by setting clear priorities and a dedicated review mechanism. Bearing in mind that we need to be ambitious in our efforts, I would like to confirm the strong commitment of my country to keep working with the court and all the relevant stakeholders to further strengthening its role, as well as the Rome Statute system as a means to ensure the international justice and the end of impunity. In this light, we attach the utmost importance to the next Assembly of State Parties, which is called to elect the new judges and the new prosecutor. It is crucial that both judges and the prosecutor boast remarkable professional experience, independence and the highest moral rectitude. The ICC is a court of last resort, whose jurisdiction can be activated only when the gravest crimes are not prosecuted by states. The ICC steps in with the sole purpose of pursuing justice, which is key to achieve lasting peace and international security. This is the international rule-based order that we are called to build with a spirit of genuine and effective cooperation. Be assured that Italy will spare no effort in sustaining the integrity and independence of the court.
I thank Vice Minister Sereni for her statement. Now we'll hear the statement of His Excellency Mr. Gaspar Dovjan, State Secretary in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Slovenia.
Mr. President, distinguished participants, I'm honored to be able to address the Assembly of States Parties on behalf of the Republic of Slovenia. Let me express our steadfast commitment to the international rule of law and our unwavering support for the International Criminal Court. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me please to start by quoting Benjamin Ferencz, one of the distinguished personalities in international justice. He reminded the international community of a long-established rule that law must apply equally to everyone, also in the international context. The ICC is a relatively recent permanent judicial institution, and we should bear in mind the complexity of setting up an international court. It has an ever-growing role in establishing accountability for the most serious international crimes and in upholding the rule of law. Given the court's increasingly active role and the serious challenges it is facing, support for the court's independence and impartiality is essential. It is necessary for the state parties to act jointly. Adopting concrete measures for a successful fight against impunity and for ensuring respect for international law is key. We need to enhance mutual trust and strengthen dialogue between all stakeholders. By building partnerships, we can reinforce international peace and security. For this reason, it is crucial that all states assist the court through cooperation by offering political support and by ensuring execution of outstanding warrants. Despite the pandemic, the Court has been making progress in its work. Timely payments of states' financial contributions and rational use of available funds being crucial for keeping on track. The conclusion of cooperation agreements strengthened the enforcement pillar. Increased cooperation between the Security Council and the Court would contribute significantly to the prevention of atrocities, crimes, as well as to the Court's effectiveness and credibility. Furthermore, universal adherence to the Rome Statute is the goal yet to be attained. Aiming to close the remaining legal gaps in international criminal justice, Slovenia notes with satisfaction that the MLA initiative for the adoption of a new international instrument on mutual legal assistance and extradition regarding most serious crimes is steadily gaining support. Regarding one of the key aspects of the Court's work, the victims' rights, I am proud to inform you that Slovenia supports the mandate of the Trust Fund for Victims. We also contribute to the fund. In addition, Slovenia strongly supports the initiatives for advancing the knowledge and understanding of all forms of sexual violence. To address this grave issue more effectively, international criminal law, policies and practices have to be strengthened. Ladies and gentlemen, we are in the midst of an extremely important period for the future functioning of the Court. State parties must take several major decisions. Elections of the most qualified prosecutors and judges of high moral character in a credible and transparent process based on merit is crucial for the legitimacy of the Court. Improving the efficiency and governance of the Court by a transparent and effective mechanism for the implementation of recommendations is of paramount importance. To this end, all stakeholders should engage in comprehensive cooperation, including the civil society. To conclude, we believe that today, more than ever before, the International Criminal Court and the entire international community must join forces in building a more humane, more just and more peaceful world. This is our shared responsibility and our common goal. Thank you very much.
I thank Secretary Dovujan for his statement. We shall now hear the statement of His Excellency Mr. Martin Smolek, Deputy Minister for Legal and Consular Affairs of Foreign Affairs of Czech Republic.
Mr. President, the Czech Republic fully supports the statement of the European Union and wishes to add a few remarks on its national capacity. This year marked the 75th anniversary of the commencement of the Nuremberg process trials, and at the same time, 70 years passed since the formulation of the Nuremberg principles by the International Law Commission and their adoption by the UN General Assembly. We believe that the legacy of the Nuremberg trials and resulting Nuremberg principles should not be forgotten, since they laid foundations for the modern international criminal justice. Despite the challenges posed by the ongoing pandemic of COVID-19, this Assembly of State Parties has to fulfill its functions, in particular, to hold the elections of new judges and prosecutors. Without any doubt, only the election of the most qualified judges will ensure that the Court will be able to deliver justice to victims and to the international community without unnecessary delays. In fact, the judicial activity of the Court is crucial and serves as the best court's outreach. The same applies to the election of the new prosecutor that should be done in line with the established practice by consensus. However, consensus itself is not the ultimate goal. It is only an excellent candidate who can generate consensual support among the state parties. We are ready to take part in the forthcoming process aimed at strengthening the Rome Statute system and making the court more effective. This collective undertaking deserves utmost attention of all of us who firmly support the rule of law and multilateralism. The court has its irreplaceable role in the fight against impunity and, as such, deserves protection against any external pressures. Mr. President, the Czech Republic presented its candidature to the Bureau of the Assembly for the upcoming period. If elected, we are looking forward to contribute to the work of the Assembly. We as state partners should not forget our long-standing tasks of ensuring cooperation with the court and, in addition, continue with ratification of latest amendments to the Article 8 of the Rome Statute, as they provide greater protection to victims of crimes under international law. Finally, let me mention that the Czech Republic will financially contribute to the Trust Fund for Victims also this year. Thank you, Mr. President.
I thank Deputy Minister Smolek for his statement. We will now hear the statement of Her Excellency Ms. Christina Martin-Lang, Acting State Secretary of the Federal Department of Foreign Affairs of Switzerland.
Monsieur le Président, aujourd'hui, je réaffirme le soutien indéfectible de la Suisse à la Cour pénale internationale. La Cour est le résultat d'efforts déployés sans relâche pendant des décennies pour poursuivre les auteurs des crimes internationaux les plus graves. Les crimes de génocide, les crimes contre l'humanité, les crimes de guerre et les crimes d'agression. À ce jour, la Cour fait partie intégrante de notre ordre international fondé sur le droit. Ces derniers mois, une large coalition d'États s'est formée pour défendre la Cour contre des pressions politiques et des sanctions économiques sans précédent. Nous avons demandé aux États-Unis à plusieurs reprises de révoquer leurs mesures contre la Cour et poursuivons notre appel. Monsieur le Président, l'expression du soutien indéfectible de la Suisse à la Cour pénale internationale va de pair avec notre engagement en faveur d'une amélioration de l'efficience et de l'efficacité du système du statut de Rome. La présente Assemblée assume à cet égard une responsabilité principale. Je voudrais aborder ici 3 points en particulier. Premièrement, nous saluons l'examen mené par des experts indépendants de la CPI. Les recommandations des experts constituent une base solide pour renforcer l'institution. La Cour devrait se pencher très sérieusement sur chacune d'elles. Les États membres doivent par ailleurs impérativement assumer leurs responsabilités à l'égard de ces recommandations. La Suisse s'engage à faire sa part. Dans un premier temps, nous avons œuvré en faveur d'un mécanisme à la fois inclusif et efficient pour coordonner le suivi des recommandations. Il est important que ce mécanisme garantisse l'indépendance des juges et du procureur de la Cour. Deuxièmement, la qualité des fonctionnaires de la Cour se reflète sur les performances de l'institution. En tant qu'État partie, la responsabilité nous revient de nommer et d'élire que les personnes les mieux qualifiées. En ce qui concerne l'élection du procureur, la Suisse continuera à œuvrer en faveur d'un consensus pour une personne compétente. Quant à l'élection des 6 juges, la Suisse s'engage à n'élire que les candidats les plus compétents. Elle fonde ses décisions de vote sur le rapport de la commission consultative pour l'examen des candidatures au poste de juge et sur sa propre évaluation exhaustive de l'ensemble des candidats. Notons que l'examen par des experts indépendants a souligné la nécessité d'améliorer les procédures nationales de nomination. L'année dernière, l'Assemblée avait déjà encouragé les États parties à fournir à la commission consultative des informations sur leurs procédures de nomination. Dans ce contexte, la Suisse s'engage à améliorer sa procédure et à soumettre les informations requises à la commission consultative. En début d'année, nous avons initié un échange d'informations techniques entre États sur la manière d'améliorer les procédures nationales et avons fait circuler une liste d'outils pratiques. Aujourd'hui, nous invitons tous les États parties à participer à cet échange, à améliorer leurs procédures de nomination et à transmettre les informations à la commission consultative. J'en viens à mon troisième point. La Cour ne peut fonctionner de manière efficace que si elle bénéficie des financements nécessaires. Étant donné les conséquences économiques de la pandémie de Covid-19, nous saluons la proposition de budget limité de la Cour pour 2021. Nous reconnaissons que cette proposition intervient alors que les salaires augmentent et que le nombre de situations soumises à la Cour est à la hausse. Dès lors, cette proposition ne devrait pas créer du précédent. En outre, nous sommes profondément inquiets en ce qui concerne la crise de liquidité à laquelle la Cour est confrontée. Nous lançons un appel urgent aux États parties qui n'ont pas encore payé leurs contributions en les priant d'y remédier. Monsieur le Président, l'année dernière, les États parties ont adopté un amendement proposé par la Suisse visant à étendre aux conflits armés non internationaux la compétence de la Cour à l'égard du crime de guerre consistant à affamer des populations civiles. Il s'avère que ce crime est particulièrement pertinent dans les conflits contemporains. Aujourd'hui, la Suisse invite tous les États parties à ratifier cet amendement et les amendements précédents au statut de Rome. Chaque ratification permet d'accroître l'efficacité et la pertinence de la Cour pénale internationale. Monsieur le Président, c'est précisément pour cela que nous sommes réunis aujourd'hui. Par notre engagement en faveur du statut de Rome et de la Cour, nous agissons ensemble pour une meilleure protection des victimes des crimes internationaux les plus graves. Je vous remercie.
I thank Secretary Lang's statement on behalf of the Assembly. Now we shall hear the statement of Her Excellency Mrs. Patricia Comandari Zanotti, Vice Minister of Foreign Affairs of El Salvador.
Excelentísimo señor presidente, excelentísimos representantes de los estados parte del Estatuto de Roma, excelentísimas autoridades de la Corte Penal Internacional, distinguidos observadores y representantes de la sociedad civil, amigos todos. Quiero reconocer la encomiable labor realizada tanto por el presidente como por los miembros del Buró durante el periodo 2019-2020, que ha sido tan particular debido a la pandemia del COVID-19. A pesar de las limitaciones existentes, se diseñó un programa sustantivo de trabajo que nos permitirá en los próximos días tomar decisiones que nos lleven a superar los retos que aún existen en la labor de esta Corte, para el funcionamiento de un régimen de justicia penal internacional y la lucha global contra la impunidad de aquellos crímenes que atentan contra la humanidad. Elogiamos el reporte final del grupo de expertos independientes y sus recomendaciones, pues ha constituido un esfuerzo integral de revisión tanto de la Corte como del sistema del Estatuto de Roma. Desde ahí ha sido posible realizar un diagnóstico que identifica y propone opciones viables para mejorar la eficacia y la eficiencia en los trabajos de la Corte en sus distintas áreas, para lograr la consolidación de la justicia internacional como una premisa para la comunidad de naciones. Hago un llamado a reflexionar colectivamente y tomar acción decidida por la consecución de la universalidad del Estatuto de Roma. Además, Este año ha quedado evidenciado que las tecnologías de la información y la comunicación se han vuelto de indispensable relevancia para la interacción con entes nacionales e internacionales, así como gubernamentales y no gubernamentales. Señor presidente, mi país asumió con plena convicción desde marzo del 2016 el firme compromiso para con los principios, valores y normas que promueve el Estatuto de Roma, incluidos los de complementariedad, integridad e independencia judicial y procesal, convencido, tal como lo dispone el Estatuto, que los crímenes más graves de trascendencia para la comunidad internacional en su conjunto no deben quedar sin castigo. En tanto, la Corte tiene ante sí una ventana de oportunidades para renovar esfuerzos y mejorar capacidades. La elección de 6 jueces y de un nuevo fiscal no es un tema menor. Dicha renovación de autoridades nos ofrece la posibilidad de elegir las mejores candidaturas que impulsen el fortalecimiento institucional de la Corte, siempre respetando la importancia de mantener una representatividad de distintos sistemas jurídicos, una distribución geográfica equilibrada y una justa representación entre hombres y mujeres. La elección del próximo fiscal es una tarea que debemos asumir con responsabilidad colectiva. Reconocemos la importancia de realizar un proceso transparente y estructurado que permita asegurar una persona que cuente con idoneidad funcional e institucional comprobada para dicho cargo, que posea un vasto conocimiento en investigaciones, juicios y apelaciones de casos penales complejos, así como un historial comprobado de independencia e imparcialidad, con un alto compromiso de defensa en pro de la justicia, la rendición de cuentas, los derechos humanos y de apego a los valores y principios del Estatuto de Roma. Señor presidente, El Salvador, desde su ingreso a la Corte, ha procurado identificar sinergias que le permitan contribuir con los trabajos que realiza la Corte Penal Internacional. A la fecha, mantenemos un proceso de diálogo y consultas con la Secretaría, con el interés de profundizar los alcances y contenido de los acuerdos de cooperación en materia de libertad provisional, libertad de personas, ejecución de sentencias y reubicación de testigos. En materia presupuestaria, me permito destacar que mi país, congruente con nuestra política de austeridad gubernamental, apoya no incrementar el presupuesto de las contribuciones nacionales. Invitamos a la Corte a redoblar esfuerzos en aras de utilizar de manera más eficiente los recursos disponibles y hacer uso de mecanismos creativos y cooperativos que permitan cumplir con las demandas operativas, funcionales y logísticas de la Corte. Señor presidente, renuevo el apoyo y el agradecimiento de mi delegación a la notable labor de equipo y coordinación que a la fecha ha demostrado la Secretaría de la Asamblea de los Estados parte, que mantiene vigente su alta credibilidad y capacidad al frente de tan delicada función. Muchas gracias.
I thank Vice Minister Comandari's statement. Finally, I'll give the floor to His Excellency Mr. Dirk Brengenman, Ambassador of Germany to the Netherlands, who will speak on behalf of European Union. Ambassador, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Mr. President, Madam Prosecutor, Mr. Vice President, I'm honored to address the Assembly of State Parties on behalf of the European Union and its member states. The candidate countries Albania, Republic of North Macedonia, Montenegro, Serbia, as well as Ukraine align themselves with this statement. At a time when the world is fighting the pandemic and our collective focus should be on supporting and protecting the most vulnerable in society, the risk of impunity for the most serious crimes of concern to the international community is increasing. Yet, while international criminal justice is needed more than ever to enforce international law, the International Criminal Court continues to face severe external challenges. As the central pillar of a global system of international justice, the ICC is actually a key element of the rules-based international order. As such, it requires our support and engagement. The European Union objects to all measures that unjustly interfere with the exercise of the court's judicial functions. Neutrality and independence of the ICC are paramount to its proper functioning. The European Union will continue to support fully the independence of the ICC and will relentlessly protect the court and its staff against any external pressures or threats. Mr. President, this Assembly of States Parties carries particular importance with the forthcoming election of a new prosecutor and new judges, as well as the review process. The European Union insists on the fundamental importance of electing the most highly qualified judges and a prosecutor to the court in accordance with the Rome Statute. A credible and transparent process of election is crucial to ensure the legitimacy of the court. We also attach great importance to our common efforts aimed at reviewing the functioning of the court to make it stronger and more effective. The court and states parties must follow up on the report of the independent experts' review to implement reforms with a view to strengthening the Rome Statute system, as well as the efficiency and governance of the court. We look forward to a process that is inclusive and transparent. This process must be a collective endeavor in which the court, states parties, and civil society contribute. It must safeguard and strengthen the integrity of the Rome Statute and the judicial independence of the court. In order for the court to fulfill its important mandate, we call upon all state parties to continue to provide it with the necessary financial resources and to pay their annual contributions in time. Mr. President, the ICC has the vital mandate to provide justice for victims of the most serious crimes of concern to the international community as a whole. The European Union encouraged states parties and the court to keep victims' needs and rights to justice and reparation at the heart of their efforts to fight impunity. We also note with concern the serious challenges that the court continues to face in relation to its requests for cooperation. We call upon all states to ensure full cooperation with the court, including on arrest warrants and voluntary cooperation with the court. At the same time, we reiterate the importance of the court engaging and cooperating with other international mechanisms established to certain facts related to alleged violations of international human rights and international humanitarian law in view of facilitating the prosecution of these crimes. Universal adherence to the Rome Statute remains our ultimate goal. The European Union will renew its efforts to encourage the widest possible participation in the Rome Statute and to preserve its integrity together with state parties, international regional organizations, as well as civil society. State parties need to adopt effective national legislation to implement the Rome Statute and to reinforce their national capacities. In the end, the role of the ICC is to complement, not to replace, existing national judicial systems. Mr. President, the European Union will continue to reaffirm its unwavering support for the ICC in multilateral fora and in bilateral dialogues, and to provide consistent assistance, political, financial, and technical, to the court. In a concerted effort, we will continue to shield the ICC from external pressure, and the EU stands firm against all attempts to undermine the international system of criminal justice by hindering the work of its core institutions. For us, impunity is not an option, and the International Criminal Court is essential for fighting impunity. It is our collective responsibility to ensure the court's ability to carry out its mandate despite the challenges it faces. The way forward is to make the court stronger and more effective. This must be our collective goal. I thank you for your attention. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ambassador Brengelman, for your statement on behalf of the European Union. We have now exhausted our list of all the ministerial level speakers and those speaking on behalf of the group. I would like to thank all the distinguished speakers today for their pertinent statement and the support pledged to the court in the fulfillment of its mandate. Unless there are any requests for the floor, this meeting is adjourned.